So in this video, let's just quickly recap what we've done to deploy the second site in our Exchange Server 2010 test lab. So the Sydney site already existed in the 192.168.102 subnet, and we deployed a domain controller, Exchange Server, and at least one workstation over here in the 192.168.101 network that was to become the Brisbane site. Now, with a few minor adjustments to the client access server configurations, we were able to configure the CAS to CAS proxy scenario for services such as Outlook Web Access, so that with the external URL defined in the Sydney site on both our CAS array members, and the external URL left blank in the Brisbane site for the client access server, an incoming client would connect first to Sydney on mail.exchangeserverpro.net and then be proxied across to the Brisbane location for access to their mailbox. Then, by making further adjustments and adding an external URL of mail-bne.exchangeserverpro.net/OWA to the Brisbane client access server configuration, we were able to switch that configuration from CAS to CAS proxy to a CAS redirection configuration. So again, the client would connect to mail.exchangeserverpro.net, which would resolve to the IP address of our Sydney CAS array, and then it would be redirected over to the Brisbane server to connect directly to mail-bne.exchangeserverpro.net. So in effect, because these client access servers detected that the user's mailbox is in Brisbane, and that the Brisbane server has an external URL configured, it redirects the client over to that URL because that is the best way to connect to that Brisbane server. We also established that with no additional or special configurations required, the mail flow in and out of the Sydney location was uninterrupted, and that users in the Sydney location and Brisbane location were able to email each other directly between the sites without any other special steps involved. If we so choose to, we can establish a second send connector to send mail directly out from mailboxes in the Brisbane location to the internet. And again, if we wanted to, we could also configure an additional MX record to send email from the internet into that Brisbane location, with the caveat that we can either choose equal cost MX records, which will roughly load balance the incoming mail traffic, or we can have one MX record be a higher cost than the other, which meant it would receive mail only if the lower cost MX record was unavailable, but that we can't, through DNS configurations, have email for Brisbane recipients go directly to Brisbane and email for Sydney recipients go directly to Sydney. That's not a DNS function. We can only tell the mail, we can only use MX records to tell mail where to go for the entire domain. So there you have a multi-site Exchange server organization, and we'll be using multi-site scenarios a little bit more in some of the upcoming lessons as well.